This is a fire fence machine. Its purpose is to create a barrier between a brush fire and something that would otherwise burn without a barrier. Shown on the ground on the blue, there are banners, or just large areas that separate the fire from what would otherwise burn. These are structural machines here that create an erection for holding those banners up against the wind and fire. The tires and what have you mean that it's a train as shown, and it is moved by whatever force you have in the front of it to pull it along. The primary problem with this particular machine and what it needs to do is to create a barrier between a fire and not be too confronted by the wind. The wind does not work well against a solid barrier. Therefore, this shows you a screen, which is more correct as far as what is needed to create a fire barrier instead of a solid banner. In this particular device, you'll see that the screening has holes in it for the wind to go through, but it also has a backside little area for dropping incendiaries down to the ground. Otherwise, we go over here to just this little example, and we can cut slots in the banner itself to let the wind go through, or holes, or the lines can go any way you want them to go. Otherwise, you can see here that it was a train. In other words, it was all hooked together into about a 20-foot section that is now 60 foot. And so that requires a particularly a disciplined set of cables on it, so that predetermined cables, so that they come out in the right length, so that you set up a banner and everything is set up correctly. Those reels that you see in copper reel out the cable, and once the automatic pins release, and then they will reel them back in. Over here we have a winch to pull them all back together again, because this is intended to be a probable 10 unit line, which would mean there are 7 more of these things in most cases to create that boundary per individual train unit. So anyway, then we have risers here to hold up the banners. We have banners, and the banners will hold themselves. Each one stretches out, and there will be spikes or anchors at the front of the banner, so that the banner creates a resistance against the wind on that side. And then there will be anchors that come back and create a structural integrity on the back side here. Alright. This is what it looks like as it's raised. This is fire fence, and it's located at www.trialoflife.info. We're going to, the ropes that are lowered are just for pulling the banners down once it's in place. Okay, this is the fire fence again. It's shown in regular upright position. This is as high as it goes, as you can see by the trussing on the top. You can see the cable going across to hold it together on this end, as opposed to a cable that goes through the middle of the pipes and the rest of the way. And you can see the cables that line up for anchoring. They go from each side of the banner back to a central point or wherever you like, and they form what is basically a truss. Alright, now we'll have to roll around and pull down the banners one at a time and see what they say and see what they look like. This is banner number 1. Gives the name, the fire fence, as the last line of defense against forest fires and brush fires, things like that. It is free invention for all. Anybody that wants it can use it. 80% of all forest land is gone on Earth. And we are in oxygen decline, because the things that create oxygen for us are cut down and massacred in one form or another. And the cars that we use consume about the oxygen in 1 hour of driving time. It consumes the oxygen needed for 30 people even a very small car, for an entire day. This is the next banner. They are building 3 exawatt lasers. That's energy equivalent to 3 million lightning bolts, all hitting the same place at the same time. They're situated in such a manner that they can triangulate those beams simultaneously to create that effect. That's an energy burst equal to 1 times 10 to the 52nd power, or a 1 with 52 zeros behind it, watts of electrical power. Grab a hold of a 100 watt light bulb to see what that might be, and then multiply it by 10 times for every zero that's there. They are going to light the world on fire. Their completion date is 2015, and that fundamentally means all life is dead. Because it's a 10 million degree fire, same as on the sun, and we cannot put it out. That brings us to the next critical problem that we're facing as a world. The National Ignition Facility, located in San Francisco, says it's safe to bring a 10 million degree fire here, same as on the sun, because it will simply extinguish itself. Not enough gravity here to sustain the fire. That's what they say. Lasers.llnl.gov is the location. Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. Their next step, they've already proven that their first theory is wrong. They did not create the same fires as on the sun by pushing together hydrogen into helium. Once they go to their military application, which is to explode small amounts of atomic weapon explosives inside their 192 lasers, everything is going to change. They've failed so far, but that doesn't mean they'll fail completely. In trial after trial, I've been to court, in federal and state court, demanding that people have a right to know that those people who are gambling with our lives and our world, such as those who try to bring the same fire as on the sun here to this earth, have a right to know. Redress of grievances is a law that says we have a right to know, we have a right to choose. Leaders refuse that democracy. Courts throw me out, even though I actually win the case by law. Media worships the university, and they say the university knows what it's doing. Doesn't matter what they're doing, the university knows. And the university is literally gambling with our entire planet and every life on it, mutilating life too. Everything is wrong, basically, and religion refuses to care. They just walk away and say, the university knows what it's doing, who are you to challenge them? A legal tax revolt is our power of democracy. It doesn't mean you don't get to pay the tax at some point. It means that they have to do their job and pay, attention, do what the Constitution says they have to do before they get paid. They are employees, they're not entitlements. They are employees. If you fail to do your job, then you don't get paid. That's how it is. This is the last banner. It suggests my website, www.trialoflife.info, for an information site. It suggests we must fight legally for our world, and shows you how. We are threatened with extinction in actual fact, because we cannot put out a 10 million degree fire, which is what they're trying to start. They can't either. And we can't change mutilation of life. We can't do it. And there are no second chances. So I am bribing you with this entire machine here that's intended to stop fires, for you to go to these sites. That one ties to 7 more, and find a way to help yourselves, because we absolutely need some attention to this. If you investigate, you examine the facts, and you decide for yourself what is a risk worth taking and what is not a risk worth taking, you should agree that gambling with our entire planet, based upon the idea that there's not enough gravity here so a 10 million degree fire will just put itself out, or that the mutilation of all life is somehow acceptable, then we just have different ways. That being wrong is being dead for everybody. So we have anchors here. We have, this is the line on the back side without any wind. These are the cables that hold the lines, as you can try to see. And oh, I forgot to put up one line. Anyway, this is a screw-in anchor. It's so quiet that I didn't bother to use them. It just screws into the ground with an impact driver. It has a chain here, and then it uses a link to hook up a cable. Anyway, that's enough. So this is in a kneeling position for the stand. That one too. The other one up front isn't. I just didn't bother with it. I will show you how it works in a little bit. This is the fire fence in trailer mode, attached to each other so that they can be transported through a brush or a forest or whatever. This is a winch on the front for pulling them back together. This is a reel with cable that measures out and spaces the individual units when they drop. This is the operating latch, although that one's actually not quite right. This one is an operating latch that is correctly in place. It has a little cam and a little lever to bring it up. It also has a handle, and right behind this little sign is just a representative of a toolbox, although the toolbox would be better suited across the back side. And it's just a demonstration. This is one link for, you know, a riser that has a chain to stabilize it. And these are individual holders for miscellaneous tarps and things that come across. This one has a different style latch. It just pushes down over the thing and it's non-adjustable. These are spring packets, and that's a torsion spring. And these are the actual bumpers that change position as it goes down or up a log. You'll see that later. This is just a little wheel. Comes off. You can see the pin. You pull the pin and you can take the wheel off for changing or whatever. This wheel hits the log if it's a very high log first and rolls over it. It also hits the ground first to keep it from nose diving into the ground. And this one is a trailer follow-up wheel. This bar here represents what goes across a log or whatever first. So it takes the primary punishment. This is the unit in expected to be produced. This is it has a strengthening truss bar in the front. It actually needs a little different support bracket in the front so it can twist and turn. These frames in the back support I'll show you how they support the banners and pipes and things later on. But with a U-bolt, that riser can be moved on or off, you know, one way or the other, so that it actually comes up. You can put it on a heel and the riser will still be straight up and down. These are simple roll around spring tensioners that provide different sets of spring tension for these wheel sets. This right here is that's a pipe that goes across, and you pull a pin on the other side and pull it out, and then the wheel set itself comes off. If you take the bolt off of here, then this whole wheel set comes off in two pieces. It slides out of the bearing part here, has a bearing here. This is just a temporary place to put a cable for positioning. Alright, so this chain here is pulled out and it's pinned here to adjust the tension on the springs. It depends on just how much tension you need, how much weight you're carrying, so it is adjustable. This one has, I just set a wheel beside it with a proper bolt acrosses and a little bit different arrangement. You can put dual wheels on each side, In case one of them goes flat, everything still keeps on going. This is transport mode, and it shows the varying lines. See where the banners are one height on one side and one height up and down, top, middle, and bottom. That's because the machine has to turn, and the banners and their support mechanisms, their poles, have to go in between the lines, or it will get stuck. The little steel pipe on the back of that black banner is a slide that goes back and forth on the bracket that holds it, and it's tied to the front. You can see the anchor lines. They all run through little rings on the frame to keep them in place and keep them from getting all tangled up. And then they are simply attached to a bolt. If you look at the pink part here, that is the secondary line on this back unit, and it's intended to be that there's the next train unit would sit on top of that pink one, and then the next train would go on the level above that, and so on. So I only have one mast showing on top. It's just simpler that way. This is what it looks like from the back. So this is the machine moving along down the way. This is the machine coming over the clumps. So this is anchored. It represents about a 20-pound pole, and we're just going to try to go forward. Go ahead. It plays out line until it gets to the end of that line. Then it pulls the pin and it moves further until it measures out another line, and then it's supposed to. All right. If you imagine this as the side of a hill, you can see that the riser can be put off at a sharp angle to the unit itself by simply readjusting the support members there and using U-bolts on the frame. By taking these structural members out, they become a jack stand like this one. They simply come out and push in the other way, like so. Take an axle out this way, bolt in. Oh, you have to undo the one bolt here. And then you pull them out. Pull it like so. This side comes up. And you have to pin it. And you can pull that out, and you can see how the frame itself is. That board that's across there is where a toolbox would go. I just didn't bother to build it. This is a unit laid out and taken apart into its pieces. Doesn't take long. This is the shopping cart method of transporting them. They actually represent about 1 foot apart, or 2 foot apart, I guess it is. Anyway, it's not far, and you can put a lot of them on a trailer. The previous method of taking them all apart will allow you to put 108 on a single truck, individual unit.